Hi, Morgan.
Hello.
We're so glad that you're back. Morgan's back. Morgan's back, and she's going to get us organized. That is the bottom line today.
Oh, it's springtime. Isn't
Mhm.
this kind of like the season of spring cleaning?
Mhm.
But we're not talking cleaning necessarily. But
Though it includes that, I think, right, Morgan? I mean,
Oh, it does.
you've been
Yeah.
nonstop with clients lately. I mean, it's go time.
It is go time. Yeah. And you naturally have to clean, unfortunately or fortunately, when you organize because
Right.
you reveal things. Yeah.
Yes, those
Well,
corners that haven't been visited are all of the sudden visited,
mhm.
and it's maybe been years, maybe hypothetically.
Yeah, maybe. Well, Morgan, we knew we had to have you on talking about home systems in this idea of leading our lives, because if we don't have home systems in place, chances are we're losing things all the time. We can never find the keys. We can never find the mail that we need to find. Where's this when I need it, right? Like all those things. And it just adds to the stress level. It adds to the chaos level that we feel. And so as we look at leading our lives, this area I actually feel like is pivotal to how things function. So as an expert, as a home organizing expert who actually goes into people's homes and helps them create systems, tell us about the impact you see.
So the impact of not being organized is what you're asking,
Just the impact
right?
of home systems
Oh, no,
on,
okay.
yeah, on
Yeah.
people.
Well, when you have a home system, I feel like it gives you the ability to better prepare and show up in life because, like you just mentioned, you can find your keys easily. You're not struggling to just locate those things that help you do the day to day. And so, the big reason I believe in home systems is that the more systems you have, the more easily you can run your day to day, and you're not spending precious time, energy, and even money replacing things or looking for things.
I like that you hit on the financial piece too, because isn't that true? We're like, we can't
Yeah.
find it. We're just going to buy it again, and then pretty soon we've got 500 candles
Yeah.
in the closet that we haven't used. And so that's
Right.
real, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Well, the system helps you know, for example, if you're looking for a candle, you go to the candle spot and then or if you're out of candles, you'll know. And so that's one thing I'm always kind of coaching people on is organizing is really not that complicated. We do complicate it, but it's just about creating homes and putting like with like together as much as possible so that way it truly impacts those three areas because I think we discount the energy we spend shopping, locating, finding things, and then obviously the money. Because I see the duplicates and triplicates I see, it's crazy sometimes.
Well, and then your job is for them, right, to give away half of those things.
Yeah.
So then you're seeing, okay, not only did you spend the money and duplicate them, but now we're having to get rid of them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just like, that's just so burdensome, isn't it? Like that clutter weight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we don't understand how heavy it feels. And that's actually something that has probably surprised me in doing this work is how much struggle there is around then letting go of things. Even though a client may be really burdened by it, there's still that tension of, but I've spent money or it was given to me, or maybe I'll use it someday. It's that tension of like, I don't want all of this excess, yet I don't want to let go of the excess because of that. There's kind of that guilt and that responsibility around it. It's complicated, like I said.
Ooh.
Guilt and responsibility around it.
Yeah.
So, what's the guilt around?
I think for a lot of people, the guilt is I spent good money on this. I
Mm,
should have been more thoughtful. Why did I really another thing that surprised me is how many returns aren't happening.
mhm,
It's that sort of just like getting stuck and then feeling
mhm,
kind of like just feeling bad that there wasn't more proactive action taken
mm.
in the moment.
Mhm.
Well, even yesterday, I went to the UPS store to make an Amazon return, only to find out the window had closed.
Mhm.
And I'm like, no, I'm actually trying, right? So now I'm
Uh-huh.
stuck with this little 1 pound jar of like, cocoa butter or something because I was going to use it in a craft and I didn't. Anyway, and I'm never going to use it. I'm literally never going to use this again because I decided I didn't like the craft. So, you know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Like, it really is. Like, then you start to feel, then I'm like feeling really badly that I bought this thing
Yeah.
and now I'm just giving it away.
Mhm.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I was just gonna say I mean, I have tons of tips, but I will just say piggybacking on that, my number one tip is to be a very intentional shopper.
Mhm.
And not that you made a mistake in buying that product, but the more you shop with intention, it just decreases that further workload of processing whatever it is you bring home.
Mhm.
Okay. So when you're I mean, can you maybe put a little more on that? Like, what do you mean an intentional shopper? I mean,
Okay.
what does that look like?
Okay, so that means I'll give a great example because I dashed into Target this morning, and because I ended up having an extra 20 minutes, so I was like, I need to get dog food, I need to get cat food, I need to get these bins for a client, and that's all that I got. And I'm not saying that I couldn't. Oh, and I did get some label tape. Again, boom, boom. And I was just going in there because that's what I needed, as opposed to. And there's nothing wrong with shopping,
Mhm.
but I think we move into shopping as more of a hobby or a filler or an activity or just
Especially
I'm
at
not
Target. I
I'm
like
not
how you
looking at
dashed
anybody.
into Target. I
Right.
dashed into Target too, Morgan.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm not saying that's how I always shop, but the more you go in with a list, and one example I give clients a lot, especially around clothing, is to keep an active list of things you need to finish outfits. So if you run into like, oh, I just really need a black pair of jeans, or fill in the blank, then when you're shopping, may it be Target or the mall, you will look at that list as opposed to just looking on the racks. So it's to me, it's just more of a focused approach as opposed to just kind of not being thoughtful.
Yeah,
Mhm.
people who are shoppers are going to like that because you're giving them permission to shop, but you are saying instead of not just don't shop. And I
Oh,
hate shopping. I like hate it with every part of me, and it does have to do with stuff
yeah.
and my own battle with stuff. I do not like to bring more things into my life,
Okay. Yeah.
but I am surrounded by people who like to shop,
Right.
and so
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to keep a list so that when I'm with them, when I am
Mm-hmm.
their transportation, for example,
Yeah. Then you could be using that time
I
wise.
I can be more intentional.
Mm-hmm.
Morgan, you said label tape, and I feel like we need to know that because I didn't know that Target carried label tape.
Um, they do. I
Or are you
mean,
talking about that goes in the label makers?
sorry, the label maker tape. Yeah, the
Oh, the
dine.
label maker. Oh, the
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Dino. Is it the Dino
Yeah.
one?
I think I have two. I have that one, which I actually use mostly just because it's super basic. And then I do have a brother. But no, Target is not the best place for label tape. And price has gone up crazy on label tape. Just
Who
so you know.
knew?
Who knew? I know it's like I don't mean like double, I mean like triple, quadruple. People are labeling.
Well, and then the Container Store, they actually have ones that you can buy that has erasable, like
Uh-huh.
you can write on it and then erase it. And so I got that recently and that's the reusable one. So that's kind of good.
I like that. That's more green too.
Yeah, more green. That's me. Okay. So I'm trying. I'm trying.
Hey,
Um,
one step at a time.
one step at a time and start with the label tape. That's what I'm saying. Okay. So Morgan, if you had to pick, like when you go into someone's house, it's just a disaster. And you have to pick one place to start. Because I mean, I would imagine that a lot of us feel like I have to clean every single room in my house and every drawer in my house. So where, like most bang for your buck, where do you start?
So every client is sort of unique because they obviously have a different situation. But what I always try to hone in on is what are your priority projects? Because I'll hear that a lot, like I want to organize my whole house. Well, I mean, that's doable, but that's a longer process. So we kind of come up with those priority spaces. But then let's say someone picks they want to do their, we'll just say kitchen, because that can be common. But I would say it's always best to start small. And that, what I mean by that is like, I'll block out how many hours I'm going to work with the client. So depending on how many hours we're going to work, we'll pick a project that fits into that time frame. So I'll say it's really easy to underestimate how long it's going to take, because usually you kind of, it's this big, like you pull everything out and it becomes more chaotic. And so I always kind of build in enough margin to get it reset and finished. So that way, at least a section. And what I find is really common, I think we're all kind of guilty of this, is we'll kind of keep zigzagging. Like we'll start in the kitchen, we'll do one cupboard, and then we're like, oh, but the pots. And then we're like, oh, my craft drawer. It's like, so like you've touched the kitchen, but you haven't really like, I use this term of working in a wave, like working, like, starting in a corner and working, through an entire section. And that could be one cupboard, one drawer, but just being methodical in it, as opposed to, so bite off the right amount and then build in enough time for that specific project. So I know that's kind of vague, but that's really applicable whatever space you pick. And another thing to consider is picking, if a person has a lot of emotional attachment or a lot of stress around an area they're going to maybe declutter, then it would be easier to start with something that's less personable, if they're just getting going. So, factor that into, because there's some areas that are really easy to make decisions, but if you're a big clothes person, then maybe your closet would be harder for you. So as an example.
What my mom did, they're moving, and she's like, I just need you to come tell me like what I should keep and what I should give away, because she was really struggling with just letting go. And she has really cute clothes. My mom's pretty stylish at her age. But it was great because I literally did it in 2 seconds, each item. She'd hold it up and I go, no. I hold up, yes. And like literally like every item, and she just listened to me. And we filled a huge garbage bag, but had I not been there, she would have kept all of it or a lot of it.
Right. Yeah. Well, because you brought neutrality, because they're not your clothes. And like, even though you may have liked some of the pieces, you could help her kind of scale back and say, but what are your favorites, as opposed to keeping the extras. And that's a great tip. I always tell people, nobody needs to necessarily hire an organizer. If they're feeling stuck, get a best friend over and bring that friend in that like is the truth teller. Don't bring in the friend that likes everything, or, bring in the person that's going to be really direct with you, or just hold you to that 2-hour block or whatever it is. Cause that really helps. Accountability is everything.
It went so fast. Like I was surprised at how quickly we could do it when we were working together.
It does,
and be like, nope, that's not in style anymore. Well, that, cause she doesn't want to be like the old lady clothes. So I'd be like, that's old lady. She'd be like,
get it out, out of here. See, I need that. I told Krista that I was trying to get one of my girls to give me some feedback on an outfit. And her feedback was, well, all of your clothes are bad, so it's fine. So I don't need that truth teller. I need a few things left. I need a few things left in my closet.
Yeah, that's true. You don't need the person that like is overly truth teller. You want like a middle ground
truth teller.
But something like clothes, you do have to be discerning about who you ask, because
for sure.
they need to know style in general, your style perhaps.
Yeah.
I mean, my husband would be not helpful in that department.
Right. Well, yeah. And I mean, I kind of was saying that truth teller thing, and it's true, but I think that you have to bring in the person that's going to know you. And that's one thing I really do with clients. Like, I can start to read the client, like, oh, they make decisions fast, like this is going to go quickly. And then I've got the other client who like, we're really touching and we're thinking and we're reminiscing. And so I think you have to know.
We're reminiscing.
You're like,
true.
okay, we're doing this.
Our
we're doing
stuff. Yeah, our stuff is deep. So yeah, you need to bring in the right person to match that. And that was a good example. Like, yeah, maybe not the husband.
Well, so Morgan, none of us, we don't want to work on our houses every day. Like nobody has time for that, but we want them to run well. So like, how do we get it done? Like, how do we prioritize it, but then not have it really take up all our time?
Well, I mean, one option is you can just move into a tiny house, but probably not realistic for most of us.
True though.
But let's pause there for a second, because we do end up filling up whatever space we have.
Yeah,
right?
It's true. It's true.
So the bigger the house you have, the more stuff you end up collecting, because you just have another closet that you put things in and close the door and don't open back up. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I'm just joking with you. I think that the best thing to do is to define your priorities. And so define, how do you want your house to feel and function? And I think there's different seasons of life depending on how many people are in your house, what are the comings and goings. But just really thinking through it. I was having a conversation recently with a client, and she was talking about, like, I don't really decorate enough for the holidays, and kind of comparing to somebody else. And I said, but you can define how you want to decorate for the holidays. Maybe it's just a wreath and that's your decoration, So I think you have to prioritize what you want the look and feel and environment to be. That's kind of step one. Step two, back to that shopping. A lot of us are gatekeepers in our homes in a lot of ways. So whether it's the shopping or, having the conversations around gift giving, whatever the things are that are impacting what's coming and going, I would say to really think about it from the front end. Because a lot of times we go to the back end of, like, well, why is my house stuffed? Well, but let's go back to the fact that we're bringing all this in and not processing it. Okay. And then number three, I think that I'm always telling people organizing is never done. I mean, unfortunately, it's kind of like cleaning. It has to kind of be an ongoing practice. So in other words, putting things, hanging up the coat, putting the backpack away, closing the drawer, just doing the things that kind of close the circles for you on a daily basis. And then within a family or in a home, I really recommend weekly resets. So just kind of doing a once over, maybe everyone takes 15 minutes and just puts things away. If we take time and do that and the systems are in place, that keeps it rolling. If we don't do those kind of three things I just talked about, then what happens is we kind of stop hanging up the coat, hanging up the backpack, putting the shoes in the basket, whatever it is. And all of a sudden it just piles. And then we get to the point where we're like, well, it's so far gone. Oh, well, we don't really feel good about it. So
do you have certain spaces? I'm just asking for a friend.
Okay.
Like if there's a teenager in your house who really
hypothetically
doesn't like their space very clean, and you've decided as a parent that maybe this is one area that you're not going to require them to have the same level that you have in your space. Again, this is, something that may or may not happen. What do you do in that case?
So I am actually very relaxed around teenage rooms. And I've actually never made my kids make their bed. I mean, I'm pretty relaxed on those kind of things. I feel it's important to teach maybe house standards and different things, but also I feel that there's personalities that come to play. My husband's not a very naturally organized person, so I don't want to force someone to be something they're not, so I know I have an organizing friend. We've talked and she talked about a client where she kind of negotiated with the client and her daughter that as long as the door could shut, all was good. And I was like,
that's the standard of success right there.
I know. And I know parents that have younger kids are probably like, really? But I'm like, oh, just wait, because it is what it is. I mean, everyone can have their own take on this, but I think it's knowing your child, knowing what's important to you. We try to push, basic responsibilities, whether it's loading the dishes or some of the things. But yeah, I'm very relaxed on that just because it's, we'll do some once overs, maybe once, twice a year. And that feels really good for like 3 hours and then, and then it's over.
That's so real though. And that's why I appreciate that so much, because that's reality, right? And a teenagerhood is a whole thing. And we, especially, I'm just going to say, and maybe Alex, you disagree, but I think with boys too, like there's certain level of like, this just doesn't matter that, and maybe that crosses genders here.
It does. Yeah, for sure. It does. But I mean, I feel like I have extremes. I have daughters who are like very meticulous and like their things in order and know that they feel better. They recognize this about themselves. I feel better if my space is in order. And others who are like, I can't deal. And I try to tell them, and I, our listeners know, and you both know, home organization is my place of struggle. So it's probably genetic. They've probably got it from me. But I tell them, you are going to feel better if your space is organized. And I'm stressed when I walk into this room. I can only imagine how you feel when you wake up in the morning. So I just try to point that out. It doesn't help, but it can get bad. I'll just say that.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Morgan. I think that's a good take on that.
Yeah.
Okay. So, let's do this. Let's talk about, I'm going to kind of hit these different areas, and then you tell us maybe 1 or 2 tips in each area that you think are the most helpful. Does that sound good? It's like a game. It's like a game show. Okay.
Let's go.
Okay. So kitchen.
Okay. So the first thing that pops in my mind is your grocery shopping and your food processing, we'll call it. So my biggest recommendation is, whether you're shopping weekly or whatever your schedule is, when you come home from the grocery store, it's important to build in time to put those things away and sort of do that inventory check and like decant where it makes sense and just process everything. Cause I feel like there's a tendency to just kind of toss the groceries in, and then our inventory gets sort of, it's not maintained basically. And I think that that's where a lot of waste happens. And again, we're buying more groceries that we maybe don't need. And so if you just build in that reset, and it might be big in the beginning, but if you get in the habit, it'll get hopefully more manageable. I feel like that makes a big difference just for all parts of the kitchen.
It's really, really good to hear that from you, because I just, in my own life, like in Costco, because we have Costco's, or some people have Sam's Clubs that we don't, but that is so important, isn't it? Because we have bulk, and what do you do with bulk?
Right. Yeah.
So you decant all your bulk. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, well, I don't buy, well, I have a pretty nice sized pantry, but I just try to rotate when I come in, you know what I mean? So if I buy, because the thing is, if I don't rotate it or make sure the things are moved around, there might be people in my house that would just grab, the most recent, I guess. And then we waste a jug of milk or whatever it is. So yeah, I wouldn't say I really buy a ton of bulk, but we only have 1 teenager, so we aren't really shopping for masses anymore. I don't think there's anything wrong. I have lots of clients who have big basement back stocks. There's nothing wrong with that. I would just say, determine why you have back stock and what you're keeping, and like if you're going through it, because if it's just, just being intentional again, like, are you going to go through that stuff, or is it going to get missed and then you bought it, but you haven't really, because again, are you really saving money and time if it's never used or you forget about it?
Right. Oh my gosh, that's so real right there too. Are you really saving money and time if you forget about it and you never use it?
I mean, I've never seen it. That's where I'm hypothetical here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just so true. Okay. Number 2, bathrooms.
Okay. So I like this question. So, because ironically, bathrooms can get just as crazy as like the pantry, because we're all guilty of this, like, oh, a new lotion, a new hair product, a new whatever. That's fine. However, my recommendation is, when it comes to your bathroom, is if you have a foundation that you have used for 15 years, just keep using that foundation. If you have your favorite scent or favorite lotion, I'm not saying you can't ever change, but what tends to happen is we just start buying all these different little things that pop up, and then we don't really like it as well as the one we've always used, but then we bought it, so we feel like we need to keep it. It's that whole thing. And again,
these are all resonating so deeply. That's why I'm laughing so hard.
Well, it is, and not the word, and I've confided before, like, I'm really guilty of, I'm not really a beauty person, but I'll go down the cleaning aisle and I'm like, ooh, if I have that cleaning product, then I'll become
then my life will,
motivated.
yeah.
So it's kind of the same thing. It's like the shiny new thing, right? Not that we should never purchase those things, but I think that again, if you have things that work, and you can have 1 or 2 back stock of those things, but just keep it simple. It really is. It's just easier all around, and that should work with any space if you're just keeping those basic things on hand that you know and love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really good. Mm-hmm. It's true. Why do we have so many beauty products?
Yeah, I know. Right.
And I don't even feel like I buy a lot of them, but I somehow have a whole closet. You know what I'm saying? Like,
And then there's that weird, see, that's that kind of guilt again. There is that little bit of like, well, I bought it, so maybe I'll like it next summer, or maybe I'll, so we just kind of hold on to it, which isn't necessarily, that's not wrong to hold on to it. But again, it goes back to on the front end. Like, are we, when we're picking it up, do we really need to buy it in the first place?
You know what I did the other day, and this was a really good exercise, is I went around and I took all the things that hadn't been opened, so they weren't used, and I liked them. And then I went to my gift closet and got those bins out because I kind of like stock gifts sometimes. And of course, again, back to, I forget about them and never use them. So I actually put all the stuff together and did little packages of gifts with like things. And they turned out so cute. And now I'm keeping them kind of in this one bin, and I'm going to actually use them. So that was a good use of like this extra stuff that I had. And I feel like it's like, okay, now I'm actually stewarding this stuff better because I'm going to give it to people who then can put
are going to have it in their bathrooms.
I was say they're going to go, oh, but this is the lotion I like. But thanks, Krista.
Okay, now I'm dying.
Oh, you're so funny.
I don't ever laugh so hard on an episode before. Because I'm having this big realization that I'm now going to clutter up their bathrooms.
You're just passing along the clutter baton.
You know what? You can give it to me because I never buy stuff.
Okay.
And like what I'm wearing right now was a hand-me-down from my cousin. And this is why I don't buy stuff, because people just give me stuff that I don't, but the problem is I don't love it. I don't love it, but it is, my closet is full of clothes I don't really love.
But are you okay with that?
No, I am not okay with it.
Okay.
I told Krista just yesterday, didn't I say I need a whole makeover?
Anyone who has beauty products, I'm going to put Alex's address in the show notes. We're just going to ship them all there.
Actually, I probably, they would go to good use here. There's 5.
Well, with
6
all
women.
Your girls. Yeah.
We've got 6 girls right now. And
well, and I'm kind of resourceful. So like my son has been gone for college for 2 years, and he just left a ton of things in his bathroom cabinet. And I went in there the other day, I was like, oh, this is good face lotion. This is good. I mean, I'm not, you can send some stuff my way, Krista. I'll use it.
Oh my gosh. Who knew that talking about home systems and bathrooms would send me into a massive laughter? Okay. Living rooms or great rooms.
Okay. What I would say when it comes to a general space that maybe is used by multiple people or all the family or what have you, is to really consider what the zones are. So do you keep games in there? Is it a movie watching area? Is it your library? So that way there's an intention around how you use the space and then what's stored there. Because often what I see is there's just not a lot of thought put into a space. So it's like, I mean, because a living room can go, even though it's kind of a general use, it can kind of go a lot of different ways. So just picking a couple, kind of zones and systems in there. So again, if someone's looking for a game, they're in one spot, so just kind of defining that. I have simple systems in mind, like we have a basket for blankets, we have a little magazine holder, a little thing for remotes, like nothing's hard, but there's homes so people can, I mean, when I say people, when I want to tidy, I can tidy. It's fast.
Homes. Yeah. I always like that description. Everything has a home.
Yeah.
So people know where to find it. Okay. Now let's hit on one that I feel like is the behemoth of organizing: the garage.
The garage. Well, it's, it depends on what you value. For me, and I live in Colorado, so actually my whole life I've valued having your car in the garage if possible, so it depends on what you value. So I would start by defining how you want your garage to serve you. Is it a car storage? Is it bike storage? Is it camping? So kind of going back to like zoning what's going to be in there. I think what happens in bigger areas, or maybe not as defined areas, because obviously your kitchen's defined with cupboards and different things, right? But the garage can be more like, well, anything goes.
Right.
And then what happens is all the items we haven't really created homes for, or we're in indecision about, they just go to the garage or, another storage area. So I would say, in our garage, like we have some bikes hanging up and we have the garbage and recycling, and I have these 2 shelves, and everything on the shelf is like, there's either shoes or there's been like, it's not fancy, but it's very intentional. And so that way there's boundaries, there's zones. And so, we're not just tossing out boxes of things and, oh, we'll deal with it later. Like if it goes up to the garage, it has to be put and stored accordingly. So, defining it that way. Garages can go so many different directions. So I think it's just really deciding, in any space, what's my vision for this space and how do I want it to work for me? And then what will it take to like make that happen is kind of the best approach.
You may not have an answer for this, but as kids start getting older, they start also storing things in your garage. Hypothetically. And so like right now, my daughter's stuff is taking up literally like an entire half because she's living abroad. So we have her entire life in our garage and stuff that she's doesn't want us to get rid of because when she comes home, she wants to save money and wants to, take all this stuff with her. Do you have any tips?
Well, I'm in it with you. I'm paying for a small storage unit, which would not be something I would choose to do, but I have a similar situation where it's like they have enough stuff of value. Doesn't make sense to liquidate it. We are only going to have it for probably another month. But I was talking to my son who in a year is going to graduate and he's going to take a gap year. And I said, well, maybe we have an extra garage we could kind of share with him. But I'm like, well, maybe we'll like charge him. And I don't mean that to be mean. But I think that one thing I'm realizing as my kids are getting older, that I want to teach them what having their stuff looks like. So I feel like I'm kind of managing it for them because of I've always managed the house, but I feel like, okay, how do I help, but also pass some of that responsibility on? Does that make sense? So I don't know if I have a clear answer, but I would say a plan as opposed to like no plan, So I think if my son was to store stuff at our house, if that became an option, we'd say, well, it'd be for this amount of time. I'm not saying we would charge them or not, but we'd make it like a little more of a plan as opposed to just bring it over, because we have 3 kids, so that could end up being a lot of stuff. So yeah. And my goal is to really help them take everything with them as soon as possible. In an appropriate way, but I just, I know some parents will hold on to their kids' toys and yearbooks for like 2 decades and then give them to them in their 40s or something. My kids are going to get it all right away. And then they can either keep the memorabilia, whatever. I just, I don't want to be responsible for it. So that's what I say today. We'll see.
That's so good though, Morgan. I really like that you said you want to teach them how to manage and be responsible for their stuff. And that's to me, that's a mindset shift, right? Because I think in my mind, I've been like, well, this is what parents do. And, we're just going to just store it for long or whatever. But I think actually in thinking about it in those terms, that becomes a different question. Like, it's true. That's part of our job is to help them learn how to create their own home systems and manage their own stuff. So thank you for that. That actually is really helpful to think of it in that.
I'm navigating. I'm not like I've been there, but one more thing I was going to say is we'll have our daughter move again in a month. And I want to kind of have her do most of her moving herself. Like we'll maybe go do one load with like the big stuff, but I feel like too, again, like when you start touching everything you own, it just opens your eyes, and everyone can decide how much stuff they want to have, but I just want to help them learn like what X amount feels like as much as possible.
It's really good. Okay. Great discussion on that. Laundry rooms.
Kind of back to the bathrooms, I would say, if you've got a great stain stick, if you have your favorite detergent, keep your products streamlined. We don't need that many things to do laundry, hypothetically. Zone the laundry room, do you have an ironing board in there? Is it also your craft room? I think a laundry room could become, it totally depends on what your design is, but it could become a bit of a catch-all unintentionally. So if it's not working for you, identify like what are the pain points and then start to kind of draw back. Often those areas like a laundry room can kind of become a little bit like a garage of just like, oh, those are things to return. Those are gifts I'm going to give, whatever. And that might be the right spot, but I would just designate the spots so that there's an intention and there's clarity. Because that's also helpful for if you're sending someone in there to grab something, or if you're looking for it, that there's kind of a design or a plan.
That is so true. It becomes another catch-all room space. Okay. storage closets, or, those extra spaces. Maybe for some people, they have a storage room. For other people, it's a storage closet. But just, again, those catch-all spots where maybe we have holiday decorations or those extras we don't use every day.
So depending on what you're storing, there's a couple of different directions. I would say I see a lot where people aren't using their vertical space very much. Like if they're using it under the stair closet, so if you can add any shelving, shelving's helpful if you want to get to bins individually. If you just have like 10 Christmas bins and they can all stack, so kind of consider again what you're storing, how much, and then optimize the space. So go high. I would say labeling is really helpful. And then using bins are helpful because you obviously can contain and categorize things. And so it depends on what you're storing in there. But what I would say just with any closet or any storage area, just continue to define it. So like this closet is our luggage. This closet is our holiday decor. This closet is my costumes. I don't know, whatever you like to store, all your things. So, as much as you can theme, it just makes life easier.
That's good. This is just a really practical question, but because you live in a snowy climate too, where you got to bring all the outdoor stuff indoors so it doesn't mold. And, you've got kind of that indoor outdoor situation happening. How do you, because storing pillows and stuff is they're huge, first of all. And secondly, they don't stack well. So how do you do that?
So I actually, this is actually really cool. I had a client who gave me an amazing patio set last summer, like this huge curved thing with all the cushions, right? So I ordered just a big cover for it and I covered it, and I was a little worried because we've had a lot of snow this year and we have a north facing backyard. I was like, I wonder, and the cushions they're really nice. They're high quality cushions, but they are like a light cream if you want to. So I was like, this could be either good or bad. The cover worked amazing. The cushions look perfect. So I would say if you can cover things, if there's ways to do that, well, one, it's easier because I just had to go through the cover on versus bringing all the cushions in. If you can't do that, then you're right. They don't stack very easy, but I do have a few cushions in my storage room and I put them up on the very highest of my shelf. I don't know if I'm trying to think. I mean, I would try to use underutilized space because obviously once you store them, you're not having to grab them again until 6 months or whatever, So I'd really try to find a spot where they can kind of be tucked away. But I've been really happy. The cover worked really well. So maybe that too.
Okay. So let's talk about that for a second, that the spaces where we store things, that we need to match how frequently we want to access them with the space. So I'm always telling my family, this is a high real estate spot. This real estate is valuable. You don't get to put your basketball bag there all spring when you're not playing basketball.
Right.
Because I walk by it 100 times a day. This is the hook for things that we wear every single day. So how do you determine that as you're going through your home?
Well, I think, your example is perfect right there of like, if you're out of basketball season, then the basketball bag or the ball or whatever the equipment is, it needs to then find a different home. So maybe you need a bin for sports stuff or it goes in their individual closet. But kind of thinking through that rotation, because some people will do that with their clothes. I actually just helped a client like 2 days ago, and we were doing that because she was realizing in her mudroom, she was keeping all the winter bins and the summer bins. And we realized because she was kind of tight on space, like, okay, and now we're shifting to the spring, summer. So she's going to move those cubes of the winter stuff in a place where she's not having to touch them for the next 6 months, and then she can rotate it. So I think definitely, especially when you don't have, or you're a little tight on space, or you've got to maximize, it's really important to do that. But it's just functional too. Like, why would you keep those winter hats there for 6 months out of the year if you're not going to be touching them at all? So yeah, rotating where it makes sense is really a good idea. And then setting up maybe I don't want to use the word backstock again, but it's kind of like that backstock, that like area we're going to tuck away and then draw from for next time.
Oh, great. These are all so good. Okay. So there's a concept I love called the progress principle. And that just means that You make a little bit of progress on something that's meaningful to you. And that's part of what brings abundance in life, actually. So, how do we apply the progress principle to organizing just so that we recognize that even just a little bit frequently matters and makes a difference in how we're living in our spaces?
Well, I think doing things in small increments, it can be really rewarding, because it doesn't, you can feel that immediate result. And so I was thinking of maybe an example of someone that really is into beauty or their makeup. Like maybe that would be of high value to like clean out their makeup drawer and tidy it up and really feel that sense of relief. Or maybe you're really into baking and you could apply that same thing, so I think sometimes we have these hobbies or these passions and we sort of neglect the care around it. And so it's, you may have a pressure to clean up your child's room or deal with your basement, but I would say equally carve out time for those areas of your life that bring you joy and like help fill you, because if you carve out time for that, it's going to impact your day. And really that kind of, to me, it just kickstarts the momentum and the motivation of like, oh, okay, I can do this. And you'll feel that satisfaction and reward. And then you can carry it into maybe a space that's less desirable for you as well.
Yeah, I love that. I love that idea of like focus on a space that you love and that you're using often. So if you're a cook, it's going to be important to you to have all of your stuff accessible, right there for your cooking.
Exactly. Yeah. Prioritize prioritize what's important to you. I think that we don't have to have these perfectly streamlined, everything in its place all the time, but you want your home to function and serve you and help you to do the activities and the things that are a priority for you. And so the systems are going to help you do just that.
Yeah. Thank you, Morgan. If people want to learn more from you, where can they do that?
So I am known as the Morganizer. So Morganize with me is where you can find me. I have a website and social, and I do have a podcast as well. So I'm happy to have anyone connect with me and follow however they would like to. And they can always DM me if they have a question.
And a couple of books.
Oh yeah. I forgot about that. I have some books out. Yes. Yeah. I have a book called Take Back Your Time and another one called Your Hospitality Personalities. So check those out as well. And just know, I just want the audience to know that no one's alone. Like we all struggle with managing our homes. It's a daily process, and don't focus on perfection, but just focus on your intention and what your goal is for your home.
Well, thank you. We adore you. And can't think of a better person to be talking about this and to be working with clients, because I mean, if we could live next door to you, we would. That's how we feel about you.
Fun. And then I could steal beauty products from you.
You could steal my beauty products. I just would like throw them over the fence.
Yeah, just throw over the fence. Krista, I'm out of this one.
Thank you, Morgan.
Yes, thank you.
Bye.